Hello, everyone. Welcome to the podcast. Today we have a session talking about climate change, but more specifically, we have today two guests, and we're going to interview both of them for their opinions on climate change as two differing views on the political spectrum. Big Tim, you want to start us off?
All right, we'll start us off with what you got to give me a topic. What you mean starting off with? You know, they've been changing. The weather's changed every year. It's changed every year, and just now they're calling it climate change. I mean, we have the ice age before even humans were really around. How is that? How is that not climate change? That was before we had oil. You know, actually, back in the day, my daddy was an oil farmer, and that just didn't contribute to that much CO2, you know, because we had ice ages, it melts, it's a cycle, and people are calling it climate change, but it's really just a cycle that the Earth goes through.
Keith Pierre, do you have anything you want to add to the topic?
Yes, so I think we should actually just cover the definition of climate change. That refers to the long-term shifts in temperatures and weather patterns, primarily driven by human activities and also natural causes. The burning of fossil fuels can contribute to that, and we started measuring climate change back in the 1800s. So I think we should just start there. Where did it start off? And
Yep. Thank you, Keith. Thank you both for your introductions. Now I'm going to move on to my first question, and it's for you, Big Tim. Now, you're relatively against climate change. What kind of evidence have you seen of climate change in your daily life?
Well, really, there is no evidence. I mean, we have 4 seasons, you know, it gets hot, cold, warm, back to warm again. It does it every year.
Right.
It does it every year. We still get snow. We still get all that. But apparently, climate change has only been around since the 1800s. And I guess it's when it was invented.
Yeah.
But I've done my own research, and my grandpa, he actually told me that cows farting release more CO2 in the air than cars do. So what are you going to do, kill all the cows? That'll help the climate. But it's all a cycle, and they just call it climate change, but it's really just natural selection.
All right, Keith Pierre, what about you? How have you seen climate change in your daily life, or what kind of evidence have you seen on this earth?
well, as Big Tim liked to suggest that it wasn't the cars, that was the cows farting. I don't really see that doesn't seem to be true because the cars release a lot of CO2 into the air, and the evidence that I've seen is the ice caps melting. I can see that in my everyday life. I live in Portland, Oregon, so I'm not far from the ocean. I can see that the tide levels are rising. That doesn't make any sense. Climate change is the only thing that can contribute to that, as well as the Earth just seems to be heating up overall. It's gotten hotter every summer. It's gotten colder every winter, and if that continues, then the climate will change drastically, and that will kill everything. We will all die. Just thinking about those poor little cows.
Boy,
Polar bears.
boy, you ain't never seen a polar bear in your life. Oh man, you grown man, man. You need to stop that.
I can't believe you. You are so impolite and immature for your age.
Man, you're a cupcake.
Hey, you boys. Let's move on to our second question now. Keith Pierre, now, what kind of natural causes do you think are there for climate change, or what do you think causes it?
Well, let me look at my notes here. Volcanic activity that releases gases and particles that can temporarily cool or warm the Earth. And in our case, it's warming. And solar variation, changes in the sun's energy output can influence climate. Earth's orbital changes, long-term shifts affect climate over thousands of years. We know that. Natural greenhouse effect, that is the main cause. Naturally occurring gases like water vapor and carbon dioxide keep Earth warm enough for life. So, but those will get trapped, and then if more and more keep getting trapped, that will continue to heat up the earth.
Right. Now, Big Tim, what about you? Do you have any responses to his natural causes? Do you think there are no natural causes? What do you think?
I don't really know what he's talking about because how are you going to stop a volcano? I mean, back in the day, when I was a young little chitling, volcanoes used to cause winters, man. Like they would blow up and cover the whole sky, man. So I would love to know how you're going to stop that natural cause because, like I said at the start, it is all a cycle. It's all a cycle, but they just like to give it a pretty name and say it's bad, but it'll all go back to normal eventually. The Earth freezes twice. That's not climate change. I guess we can blame that one on the mammoths, but people just people.
Okay. But Big Tim, you have to admit, there are some human contributions to climate change now.
Give me a second. Let me look at this thing real quick. I mean, yeah, there is some. But really, the problem with this, Caleb, is that they blow this out of proportion. What are you gonna do to stop the world? Like people got to drop work, people got to do all this, but this is not that big of a deal because guess what? The volcano do more than the cars do, man. It's just. I know that burning fossil fuels is relatively bad, but you gonna call fireworks bad, like, America. And, greenhouse gases, yeah, but them's also natural. Factories, manufacturers, like, you wanna criticize this stuff, but you're wearing the stuff that causes global warming, apparently, So, I guess.
Now, Pierre, what say you? Do you have any responses to anything Big Tim said, or do you have any other contributions you want to bring to that?
Well, he did mention everything that I would like to have mentioned, but he said that the natural causes were much of a bigger deal than the human contributions, and I don't think that's true. While people do have to drive to work, there's electric cars. That's what everyone drives on the West Coast, and it makes things much more clean in the air. The factories, we have to get rid of them, put them somewhere else. They are ruining our air, and they are causing so many problems in climate change. I can't get over this. Can we just move to the solutions, please? This is stressing me out.
All right.
Hold on. Don't give this picture what he wants. Because that's what they do every time something comes up when they get proved wrong. They try to change the subject. That's a topic for a different discussion. But, the charging stations that you use to fill your Tesla, you ain't driving no American-made muscle. But those use fossil fuels. The batteries in your Tesla come from overseas that kill thousands of wild animals from those shipping boats. So really, you guys have just as big as a, what's that called? A carbon footprint. That's what y'all call it. Y'all call it a carbon footprint. Y'all have just as big as a carbon footprint than my F-150, if not bigger. So.
I just don't think it was fair to change the subject over to China and all the different places that we get things shipped from. I do see what you're saying. Yes, the charging stations may be rooted back to fossil fuels, but it's still a way lesser amount than what your car is putting into the air. The exhaust from Teslas doesn't exist because it's electric. Your F-150 is putting so much CO2 into the air that's killing the plants and people. It's killing everyone.
Okay, moving on. Now, Keith, this is such a big problem in your eyes, yes? So what kind of solutions do you have in mind for the problem that we have on our hands?
We've already started one, electric cars, as I mentioned. Solar panels, hello, solar panels, wind, and hydroelectric power, okay? Water. We use the water that he's so gladly poisoning, and we reduce the reliance on these fossil fuels. We use these natural sources of energy. Use less energy in your households, please, people, okay? The houseless community, they don't use as much energy as we do. They are living the better lives. It's houseless. they can still have a home, but not a house, of course.
They also poop on the street.
Now, Big Tim, what do you have in mind for any kind of solutions or anything that we could do to solve this?
I mean, this is a bunch of BS, man. This is a bunch of BS. Because you want to know, this is like when a dentist come to your school and they're like, turning off the water while you're brushing your teeth. What is that going to do? You know, like save you a liter of water. And the thing is that none of this is realistic. You know, we already use dams, we already use that, and actually dams affect the environment way more than people think. But that's a topic for a different discussion, and it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the American people will not be behind this, and they'll also call him a cupcake and a pixie stick and a crybaby. I mean, it is what it is, Mike, but yeah.
All right, so Keith.
I can't take this anymore! You've disrespected me and the entire American culture as a whole. We've been poisoning everything. I just can't take this anymore! That's a number one cause of climate change. You smoking.
Now listen here, boy. Now, one thing you never do is you never smack a cigarette out of a redneck's mouth. Now, please sit down so I can finish this and go back home to my wife. You know, because I know you're dead.
Sit down.
Man, come on. You guys never my
Yo.
cigarette.
Yo, hey.
They're so mean.
Okay, that's good.
What a mess. Well, thank you both for your time. Thank you, viewers, for watching. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on another episode of the podcast. Good night.